Libyan government in Tripoli billed it as a war on crime in the southwest of the city. Complete with rousing soundtrack, the army and the police were going to clean up no-go neighbourhoods like Gargaresh, a locality notorious for crime and prostitution.
احنا جايين للأوكار، احنا بننظف الأوكار رقم واحد. عندكم الوكر في المخدرات في الحشاك كل اللي تسمع به هذا موجود في قرقاش.
Makeshift buildings built on public land were being rented out to thousands of migrants and refugees trying to get to Europe but stuck in Libya. But then, an unintended plot twist in the edit. Women, children, young men face down in the dirt. More than 5,000 migrants and refugees were rounded up. The UN reported that one migrant was shot dead, 15 others injured, and thousands brought to detention centres, including 215 children and nearly 600 women, 30 of whom are pregnant. We asked refugees and migrants to send us their videos and testimony of the operation. There is no soundtrack on their footage. Just someone banging on the door of the Al Mabani detention centre trying to get out. This was filmed a week ago. By some estimates, the numbers of detainees in Tripoli's migrant centres have doubled in the last 7 days.
They came around 2 a.m. in the morning at night when we are sleeping.
People like Peter from South Sudan escaped the raids by hiding in some bins, along with hundreds of others, made his way to the UNHCR's community centre in Tripoli looking for help. Himself and his friends filmed the scene there for us today. Many have a UNHCR certificate, proof that they're bona fide asylum seekers. A piece of paper that if you're Peter, you hold on to tight.
The government of Libya, they just turned their back against us. That's why we fear even they don't respect this page. Just from 2 meters away from here, as I go, they can just arrest me immediately. So they don't respect this page.
As we were speaking, Peter and his friends told us about a mass escape from a detention centre in Tripoli in which migrants were shot and killed. We cannot confirm whether anyone died in this incident, but this footage sent to us this evening from outside a detention centre in the west of the city has what sounds like gunfire. Local media is reporting that over 3,000 people broke out of detention centres in Tripoli in the last few hours. Most escaped. Others were released because, according to the authorities, they weren't able to feed them. As we speak, hundreds of people are making their way to the UNHCR building. The European Union pays Libya to push back and detain migrants and refugees. Whether that constitutes value for money or not is this evening being tested to its absolute limits.
Porrick O'Brien there. Well, earlier I spoke to Jean-Paul Cavalieri, who's Chief of Mission in Libya for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. I started by asking him why the UNHCR had closed its doors to the migrants outside their community centre.
Of course not. We do not close our doors to people, to nobody. We have outreach teams, in the neighborhoods, but also we are providing assistance to people to come to the community day center. And they are being serviced based on their needs. What has happened is that large crowds have gathered and a number of them have stormed the premises and have remained there. And what we're trying to do now is to identify among them the women and children to allow them in to provide life-saving assistance such as cash for shelter.
We've seen the footage where the refugees and the asylum seekers, some of whom have papers from the UNHCR, justifying them as asylum seekers and therefore in need of your help. The footage we have seen shows the community centre doors shut.
the community center, those we had to suspend our activities because there is a larger crowd who wanted to basically step in. We all are demanding that UNHCR takes them out of the country, evacuates them out of the country. And UNHCR is not in a position to do that, unfortunately, because the authorities a few months ago have suspended all humanitarian flights out of Libya, be it UNHCR resettlement and evacuation flight, as well as IOM voluntary return flights to countries of origin.
Clearly, Libya has no fear of the UNHCR. It seems to have no fear of the outside world in terms of how it's treating refugees. Now, human rights groups have long said that this is, in effect, a direct result of the EU deal done with Libya, which sees EU countries essentially offer assistance to Libya to keep migrants from coming to Europe. I mean, isn't that the truth, that this is a direct result of that deal, a deal Amnesty said was a deal with the devil?
Well, our advocacy to the European Union and to all other countries working with the Libyan authorities, whoever they are, is that it's legitimate to assist the Libyan authorities to manage borders, to manage migration.
Shouldn't the UNHCR be saying to the EU, this isn't working, let's suspend it at least until we find a better way? Because otherwise we're accepting that these people are treated like animals in these camps.
Nobody should accept that these people be treated as animals, and our duty is to try and access to them and provide whatever assistance we can. We ourselves, as the UN, have very clear rules of engagement. We are being asked to refurbish some of these centers to provide all sort of heavy rehabilitation, which we don't want to do because it's not for the UN or to anybody to substitute itself to the Libyan authorities. So what we bring in is what we define, we and the NGO partners with whom we work, is life-saving assistance.
We've just seen that there has been a mass escape from a detention centre just west of Tripoli.
Yes.
Now, given how the authorities have been responding to asylum seekers and refugees in recent days, this is clearly very dangerous. What can you do to make sure that these people are safe?
We have to see, how people are going to cope with this situation. We're already in discussion with the UN. We were just a few minutes ago discussing with the entire international community, the donor community, to come up with a one line vis-à-vis the Libyan authorities. One of which is to avoid, by all means, excessive use of force in dealing with non-Libyans, foreigners, migrants or refugees, and allow the international community and UNHCR or partners access to these people so that we can deploy assistance either out of our premises or out in the streets, out in the communities where these people are, and stop the raids, stop forcible expulsions from their homes.
Jean-Paul Cavalieri, thank you so much for talking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.